Hey treasure hunters, welcome back to Toy Box Treasures. My name's Trav, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite parts of collecting toys in the 80s, and that's going to be the mini comics and the advertisement flyers. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you think we did a good job, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to turn your bell on for notifications, and don't forget to check us out on Facebook because I do drop extra content in our community on our Facebook page. Some things don't make the videos, so I'll let you know about them there. So recently, just this week, a friend reached out to me that we've been friends for probably 25 years and was cleaning out his garage and ended up finding a couple of mini comics and ended up throwing them away and then ended up pulling them back out of the trash and going, I think Trav will like those. So, you know, he hit me up and asked me about them. I said, of course I want them. I love those things. And he mailed them to me, and I'm going to share them with you guys here today. So thanks, homie. I appreciate it. So first of all, the first one that he sent me was a Masters of the Universe mini comic. Now, this was the way that Mattel started to try and tell the story of Masters of the Universe and He-Man. It was not cross-referenced very well with Filmation and the cartoon and stuff. They actually had kind of multiple storylines going on, but what this did, it enabled you to connect and get that attachment with those characters that you never heard of. You didn't know about them. They didn't have a full-size comic book at the time, and they didn't have the cartoon at the time. So when they're dropping these figures back in the early mid 80s, there was no story behind it. So this is how they told the story of the figures, so you can pick which one you like. So the first one, this was going to be the He-Man Fisto kind of mini comic. Looks in great condition for being sitting in a garage for nearly 30 years. And this right here is one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, is the advertisement flyer on the back. So that was, once again, how Mattel and Hasbro, that's how they wanted you to get those other figures that you didn't have. That's how they let you know that there's more than that one. Just like on the backs of the cards, and they did it on the backs of these mini comics. To this point, I only had one other mini comic that I've acquired over the several years because, you know, they can be expensive and they are hard to come by, depending on what toy line it is and the condition. This is one that I had acquired over the years, and it's a Trap Jaw He-Man Skeletor. It's in pretty rough shape. The back of it's tore. It's got some water damage and the corners are messed up. But, you know, inside, I mean, it's got other advertisements just like you would in regular comic books. Here's a little advertisement for what else you can buy from Masters of the Universe. These things are great, and the artwork is very different than what we grew up watching with Filmation and stuff. And I really like these mini comics. To me, it is art. It's my Picasso, Monet. The other one that he sent me was a Dino Riders. This one was the one that I was most excited about. Dino Riders is kind of an obscure line that was in the mid 80s. They were made by Tyco, and they were kind of like little 2.5 inch figures that resembled mask figures, and you put them on dinosaurs, and they had to shrink the figures down so the price point wasn't so high that you couldn't afford to buy it. And even back then, they were still pretty expensive. And if you're collecting Dino Riders today, you know exactly how expensive they are because they pull a pretty penny. The Dino Riders is great, and I can even see that that my buddy cut out the proof of purchase, so maybe he could work on getting a mail away. So apparently he was a Dino Riders fan, which is something I didn't know about him. I do have a few in my collection today, but it's very, very thin on the Dino Riders. So we also had Mask and maybe Sectors and Atari, I think, had a mini comic. So there wasn't a lot, but it was definitely a trend in the early mid 80s. What I like even more than the mini comics is what Hasbro did with G.I. Joe. And with G.I. Joe, they had advertisement flyers. So when you purchased, say, a vehicle or a play set, you got one of these, and inside of it, it told you exactly what was out there. So you're in there circling and checking and showing mom and dad what you want for your birthday and Christmas and what you want next. And this actually has the actual toys in it. Now this one's going to be vertical, so we'll take a look at it real quick. It's got all the figures, vehicles, and then the other side is going to be the Cobra. And check out that Zartan. So this was our internet back in that back in 1985, 86, 87. This is how we found out what else was out there, other than going and seeing from your neighborhood friends and family members what they had. But these things are great, and to think that people have kept these things for as long as they have is really amazing. Because this is what you're going to do with them. You're going to look at it, you're going to write on it, draw on it, and then eventually it's going to get thrown away. I only have 3 of these guys. I mean, look at this. It's got the twins, the Dreadnoks. You know, it came with different things. But these things were our internet back in the day. I love looking at these things because the nostalgia factor really takes me back to that time period in my life. And you know, just to be able to look at the advertisement and have that connection and look at this, then go look at the figures, it is great. So this is one of those other obscure things that I collect, and it's one of those obscure things that a lot of people collect. Some people have like piles of these things. I'm not a completist, so I don't feel the need to collect every single thing and every single line that I collect. I just like to get my hands on a little bit of everything, you know. So if I can just have a handful of each, you know, each toy line, I'm satisfied with that. So I just wanted to share this story with you guys about how a friend of mine reached out to me and basically gave me the hookup on these 2 mini comics. This is a great topic. If you're not into them, I suggest you research them. And if nothing else, you need to be looking for them. So this is going to do it for us here at Toy Box Treasures. Just remember, if you're out there and you're checking the stores, always leave something on the shelf for the next guy, because the next guy may be you, it may be me. Hopefully, yard sale season is going to kick off here real soon. Now that states are going to be opening up from COVID-19. I was lucky enough to already hit one. Went searching today. There's nothing out there. So keep digging in them boxes, because you never know what you're going to find. Hopefully, you'll find one of these mini comics or promotional flyers. Thanks for watching. Stay for tuning in. And we'll be dropping more videos soon.